Where, oh, where are we going to wander today? I chose the image of both the inside and outside of this nautilus shell for the emphasis on a spiral journey that every one of us is on. Have you ever seen that animated version of what our particular solar system looks like as it's moving through space? You have the sun, you know, racing along through space with all the planets rotating around it, some down, some further up. But it's the gravity, that solar gravity, not necessarily that different than the gravity that keeps us from flying off the face of this planet. Or if we happen to be wandering around on the moon, allows us to leap great distances with ease. No, this solar gravity, it that image of that sun pulling us all along as planets with it very much can be seen to portray the same spiral that is, basically expressed throughout nature. Here in the core of this nautilus, a small speck seed of essence said, I'm going to build myself home. And it started building home. And you can kind of see, pretty good sized gaps in between each of those chambers in this nautilus to begin with. And then they start to even out. They're bigger because the shell keeps getting bigger. But the distance between them, you know, seems to stay in a cogent format. Each layer building upon the next. This, by the way, is how life unfolds for each of us, and also when you look at the celestial dance of how this unfolds, we're whirling around every day. We 24 hours. We make an orbit. No, we make a rotation. And our orbit around the sun takes about a year, 365 plus days. Yeah. Now, where was I going with that? The that spiral journey that we're accomplishing as we go through space, following our solar trajectory. The solar, the activation of our vitality. And each month, the sun is sitting with a backdrop of one of the 12 zodiac signs. We're currently in the season of Libra, that essential nature of what does it mean to engage with others. This is Libra, after all, ruled by Venus. And as I sit down to contemplate what's going on astrologically each week, there are many, many factors that I don't tune into all of them. I listen to my muses to say, this might be a focus that could be relevant to each one of us. You know, some perhaps a little stronger than others. We all have a Libra portion of us, all of it ruled by Venus. So this is the last full week of the Venus cycle for the year. And Venus is definitely in play. Let's go look at the chart. We start the week out. Oh, look at that. We've been playing with the chart. We're already to Tuesday. We start the week out with Venus right there, 20 minutes away from the sign of Libra, which it goes into as Monday becomes Tuesday. And, there are other factors in play. If you see that Venus is basically moving into to a more exact trine with Uranus and Pluto up here, still retrograde, but not really moving because it's just about to, because as Venus is shifting from Virgo into Libra, Pluto is shifting from retrograde into direct. But it's a process for those outer planets that takes a while. So Pluto is standing still. And when a planet stands still, there's an activation of intensity. And it's Pluto, after all, that has a strong, strong affinity to the sign of Scorpio. And Scorpio definitely has an intense quality to it. But this trine, let's just bump ahead a day. This trine in all air signs says that there are factors in play that stimulate our creative thinking communication processes. We've got a unpredictable Uranus down there, retrograde in the earliest degree of Gemini, which is saying, are you ready for things that might show up in your thoughts or may trip off the end of your tongue rather unexpectedly? That is going to inspire, what? How about just it's going to inspire? Pluto up there at the beginning part of Aquarius, you can kind of see it's no longer red. If you go back here one day, red, retrograde, not red anymore, standing still. But in that beginning first degree of Aquarius, what thoughts, what communication, if you will, is going to inspire creativity to do what? Invent something? That's a very Aquarian kind of energy. What kind of things would Pluto want to invent? Pluto would probably be interested in the invention of something that is going to change or transform or transmute or transubstantiate something from what it was to something else. This is Pluto's function, to basically awaken us to a process that requires a letting go so that there's space for something new to put in an appearance. I know I harp on that all the time, but that is how Pluto works. It's in Aquarius. It says, what's the arena of what an Aquarius kind of energy prefers to dance within? The arena is the social thing. The clubs. Yeah, that's a good term. Hmm, Perhaps we might want to, hone in on the club idea and say that what is it that has drawn together a faction of people to be um, inspired by similar thoughts? This is different than just a basic club that anybody could be a part of. No, no, this is something that, you know, people moving in and out of each other's spheres of influence discover that there are waves of compatibility and similarity of direction that drives us, that draw certain of us together. And I refer to that as, from the Aquarian perspective, our cosmic tribe. We have things to do together. And the reason that we're drawn together is because there's an inspiration there that inspires each of us, to, you know, compare notes. We're talking about the air signs here for this grand trine that's happening. Venus has just entered into Libra. It is required from the Libra perspective, Venus ruling Libra, that we don't try to do this life dance on our own. Oh, no, no, not. We require the exchange of energy with each other. This is essential Libra, which is a part of each one of us. We all have that Libra. And with Libra, I mean, with Venus going into Libra, as Monday becomes Tuesday this week, you know, there's an uptick in that otherness factor that comes into play for every one of us. You know, who is it that all of a sudden I'm thinking about this person? Perhaps it's a good idea to reach out, say hello, and reach out, say hello. I have a lot of people that are born during this very week, this year, and I say happy birthday, happy solar returns to each one of you. Each of you, of course, is on your own unique path. Well, this trine crossed all these air signs just also happens to have this, what we call this a mini trine, sextile between Pluto, Neptune, and a sextile between Neptune and Uranus, and this trine between Pluto and Uranus. This pattern, if we include this mini trine with this grand trine, forms what is referred to as a kite. Can you see that kite there? If you turn your head just over to the side, top of the kite, this is where the tail gets hooked onto the kite. Venus is where the tail is. Well, what a kite does is it takes all those energies and trines and sextiles, they're talking to each other more effectively and easily than squares and oppositions might. But there is one opposition in the kite, and that is the main stick going through the middle of the kite between Neptune here and Venus. Venus, you can kind of see, or Neptune, 11 minutes. It's in retrograde. It's going to be going back into Pisces this week. Not yet, but soon. Oh, actually, I see it's going to be going in next week. Anyway, it's it's an outer planet, so it moves pretty slow anyway. But Venus over here at the tail end of that kite is brought to focus of a kite. It takes all those energies, sextiles and trines, and says, brings it to focus on that Venus. So as this week unfolds in the sign of Libra, this last week of Libra, Venus is receiving input from that Pluto, from that Uranus, from that Neptune energy, and saying, what is it that I, as Venus, need to bring to focus in this realm of otherness? You can say from the perspective of I, me, myself, the requirement of paying attention to the other is up very dynamically, more so than the fact that we are in the Libra season and the sun is still moving through Libra, which adds to the vitality of that particular sign in each of us currently. It's amplified. It's been kicked up because Venus is just, stepped into that realm and says, can you feel the potential for camaraderie? Are your artistic uh, hair follicles standing on end? Are your antenna up to tune into what form of artistic expression is beckoning my participation right now? And can I be inspired by what it is that others are bringing to the table to awaken aspects within me of where we might go together? This is also, oh, actually, we go back one day. On Monday, this is the waning quarter moon, which, if you're able to have clear skies, we do not right here in Washington at the moment, at least up here in the northwestern area of Washington where I am, you will be able to see the moon holding hands with Jupiter as it travels through the night. That's an exceptional kind of energy. The moon, how you feel in Cancer, the sign that it rules. Jupiter exalted in Cancer, large as Jupiter can be, saying, feel with everything that you've got. This is the energy that initiates this week. And to, you know, just add a little extra sauce, some spice, if you will, to that particular configuration. When the moon is going through Gemini and Cancer, it's out of bounds. The unpredictability factor is aboard. Moon unpredictably feeling something that Jupiter is saying, don't be small. It's the possibility of something arriving during the visual aspects of this celestial dance on Monday night. Actually, you probably noticed it on Sunday night too. It was there. Not as close as it will be on Monday. Awake, awake, awake. Your feelings, perhaps just a little closer to the surface than usual. Final quarter moon, crisis in consciousness. What is it that you've been thinking about? Jupiter there with it, a tailwind, you know, the retro rockets from behind you in that lunar dance that this month has allowed to unfold for you are pushing you to really break through any conscious barriers that may be holding you back from assimilating what it is that you set as your intention at the last new moon, which was at, guess what, 29 degrees of Virgo. And I believe that was a new moon eclipse. That's just a guess. Look at my notes here. New moon, 29 degrees Virgo eclipse. Yeah. Eclipses are about change. And even though the eclipse was a week or two ago, the energy of that change is being stimulated as Venus goes over that very same degree just before going into Libra. saying, don't think that you're on this journey alone. You never are. Whether that is other humans that you tune into or other beings, your pets, the wild animals, the effervescent green, although right now it's fall and the maple trees have all started changing quite dynamically. It's a beautiful time of year. Hmm. Anyway, let's bump through the week. Tuesday, that's the grand kite I was talking about. We've already talked about that. If we go to the 17th, we have an exact square between Jupiter, which we were just talking about, and the sun. Sun, that vitality of what is going to transpire when I get together with others in a square aspect to Jupiter, which is overtly, you know, happy down there in Cancer. And so it's not like it's necessarily a hard square. It's in Cancer, There's, you know, essences of the energy field that home and hearth, family, your clan, the energy of what your piece, even, it's as I say, I was going to say your piece of land, but you can't own it. You have the responsibility of caretaking it. And in that, the essence of your connection to it is dynamic and strong. And it's Jupiter. It's going to remind you if you let that slip away from your consciousness too long to take care of that place where you rest your head, where your family comes together. In square two, the vitality of Libra says, this isn't a personal thing that's taking place. The other family members that are a part of this equation are required. There may be some edginess because we're talking about a square here that's in play. But when has that ever slowed you down? I mean, really, it's part of the life lesson that we signed up for in the current incarnation. As the week draws to a close, that's Friday, that's going into the weekend. We have a couple things taking place. I've been watching this Mercury Mars dance that's going on with particular interest up here in Scorpio. Because when Friday, Monday, and Tuesday taking place, these two are traveling along hand in hand. But we'll go back to to Sunday. I was born with Mars and Mercury conjunct, just for a little gee whiz. We put my chart here in the middle. Here's my Mars and my Mercury. They're 8 minutes apart here in Aquarius. So this conjunction that's taking place in Scorpio up here in my 10th house, my ninth house, is exactly square to my Mars Mercury. And so I have a curiosity, Mercury, a curiosity as to, what is it that was initiated? when I was born that this particular year, this particular week, is being stimulated by this square of those two planets so friggin' close together again that is going to inspire my ninth house vision to really dig in deep into a meaningful context of an energetic Mars, curiosity, Mercury, about the meaning of life that's available in the next step. Ninth house, Scorpio. What's the next step? In Scorpio fashion, the next step for me is what is the larger picture of life along the lines of the mystery fields? That is, Scorpio is about the mystery fields. And so this Mars Mercury together, you know, an inspiration to wake up a portion of me to challenge, it's a square aspect to my natal, to challenge some of those versions of life's mysteries and ask myself and ask others. It is the ninth house, after all. What is the perspective that the larger context of society has related to life's mysteries? Anyway, here's a little gee whiz aside for you. I could go much further into that, but I'm not going to. Not today. The You can kind of see the moon catching up with Venus here. Everybody's in Libra right now. The ascendant, which I always keep in here, which basically says that wherever the ascendant is, which in the morning is around, 6 to 8 o'clock in the morning. Although, this morning I woke up at 7, it was like it's dark out. The seasons, they are changing. The sun theoretically would have just risen on the eastern horizon. Well, it hadn't risen here yet, at least not above the mountains or enough to break through the cloud cover. It's all great. Yeah, it's a work in progress. So each of us is in the process of creation, creating a soul version of what the life dance is about. It doesn't always come prepackaged with a nice, tidy bow upon it saying, this is what we would like you to do. Oh no. Earth School is fraught with challenges because the learning plan that Earth School represents is there to challenge each of our soul dances in such fashion that we, as we do this life dance, can grow our soul awareness. And that's going to be unique for each of us. We're still in that season of Libra, which is, time to compare notes. How is your soul growth going? You know, I I consider this all the time. And when I do a chart reading, I keep my finger on the pulse. I ask penetrating questions to see where, and if you are tuned into the soul level of your awareness. And perhaps looking at the planetary dance that you signed up for, there are signposts that you may or may not be paying attention to. And as an astrologer, I'm here to remind you. By the way, did you happen to see that signpost we just passed, or that's around the bend of the next corner that we're coming to? Are you ready and willing to grow? That is the purpose of the soul, to grow. Hmm. That's all I got for this week. Uh, grow well. Enjoy this last week of the Libra season. Make sure that Venus you are paying attention to as you engage with one another. Don't be shy about asking questions that may just go a little bit deeper than, how's the weather, Joe? There are reasons that we come together, very unique reasons. But you have to be curious enough to compare notes with each other and with yourself to see what is it that as a soul being on a trajectory that is eternal in this current moment is asking you to pay attention to. I know I'm always paying attention to astrology, among other things. And I would just invite you to make sure that somewhere along this spiral trajectory inside this nautilus of life is where you are. You always have the choice, forward or backward. Free will, that's called. And there are things right now that are paying attention to will be an inspiration from our initiating moment going forward that are going to make a determination on so many different levels. Ciao for now. I want you to make sure you recognize each other. Next week we go into Scorpio. That's a whole different ball game. I hope you're ready for it. Ciao.